2 weeks ago, Father Hermes and I took a group of 6 students, these 6 seniors here, to Philadelphia to see the Pope, to see Pope Francis. We had Sean Lanoue, Alex Barcenas, Jett Angel, Gajewski, Niekro, and Michael Lee. While there, we spent 4 days at another Jesuit high school, St. Joe's Prep, with 43 other Jesuit high schools throughout the country, and one from Canada and one from Puerto Rico. While there, we celebrated Mass, listened to guest speakers talk about joy and mercy in our faith. We collaborated in recreational activities with other Jesuit students, spent time in adoration and confession, and finally, most importantly, we got to see Pope Francis. We listened to him speak at Independence Ball, where he spoke about immigration and the importance of religious freedom. And on Sunday, with 2 million other people, we were able to celebrate Mass with Pope Francis. A few of his main points that he spoke about over the weekend was most importantly family, and love and happiness in the family. He said that grandparents are the ones that guide our family moving forward, and children give our family strength to keep going and to keep moving forward. One thing that stuck with me is he said, never finish a day with anger in your family, with anyone in your family. If you're angry with that person, never finish that day angry at that person. For me, this trip was life-changing, and it was a wonderful, amazing experience because of these 6 seniors. The leadership that they showed at St. Joe's Prep, at Independence Ball, and at the Mass on Sunday with Pope Francis was amazing. And they truly, truly represented Jesuit High School Tampa well. Throughout this experience and leading up to this trip, these students had a lot of opportunity to become very familiar with media and with interviews from media, from News Channel, from Channel 10, from Channel 8, from Fox 13. I think each and every one of them was interviewed at least once or twice. So that being said, we're very thankful today to have Kevin O'Donnell from Fox 13 to give his final interview as they share their experience with you from To Philly for Francis. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank all of you and Michael and Father Hermes for this invitation. This is just an incredible experience. I know for most of us, for myself, and for all you guys out there, we just got a glimpse of this visit from Pope Francis. This was just incredible. These guys here got a first-hand look. They're kind of the reporters on the ground for us. And just to put it in perspective of how important this visit was by the Pope, this is only the 4th time in U.S. history that a Pope stepped on the ground of the United States. And I remember when I was your age, the first visit from Pope John Paul II, 1979. And I can remember the days of just watching him on the television, going through the cities and visiting people, and just the impact it left with everybody, and with myself at the time, because, as I said, I haven't forgotten the day. The last visit by a Pope prior to this was in 2008. The one before that, 1999. Most of you guys probably weren't even born at that point. So what these guys just went through is just really incredible, and I think just a moving experience. One story that I did pick up on, just in the coverage of this visit, was a family from South America. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but they got in their car, a little van, packed up their family, and drove 13,000 miles. It took them 6 months. Can you imagine that? That's, to me, it's pretty powerful. And it tells you how important, really, this visit was by the Pope. So we're going to ask these guys to kind of share their experience and maybe kind of bring us a little bit closer to what this was all about. Well, we're going to start out with Sean. And Sean, most moving experience for you in this pilgrimage, was to see the Pope right in front of you, or staying in St. Joe's Prep with 43 other Jesuit high school students, or was it attending Mass with, how about this, over 2.5 million people?
I'd say it was definitely attending the Mass with over 2.5 2 million people. Leading up to it, there's a lot of excitement. Like, we were kind of camped out right along Ben Franklin Parkway for about 8 hours beforehand, and once it came time for the Pope to kind of like make it drive around in the Pope mobile, getting ready, like going towards Mass, everybody's goal was to try and like to somehow like lure him over to you and like find a way to get him to notice you. And so some people were holding up their babies, some people had like flags. For us, we had our Jesuit flag, we were singing AMPG, and then finally Father Hermes had a chocolate muffin that he was holding out, hoping for the Pope to notice or want. But no, definitely.
Did that work?
No, it did not work. But definitely, like just once the Mass got started, like that's when I finally started. Like I really began to realize how incredible of an experience this was, and it was not until like communion, when there were over 300 priests passing out like communion, that I just like that's when I came to tears. Like after kneeling on like right next to these guys on the concrete, along with 2 million other people after communion, it was just such a moving experience. Like I can't describe the feeling, but I instantly felt closer to God and closer to these 5 guys. So like I'm just truly blessed to have gone on this pilgrimage.
Alex, Pope Francis has encouraged the culture of encounter. Why is this important, and how do you relate to the message during this World Meeting of Families?
Right, so the culture of encounter is Pope Francis' way of describing Christianity regarding family life, community, society. As Christians, we're called not only to receive the gospel of Christ and from Christ, but also to spread it. And this ties in perfectly with the World Meeting of Families, because it's through encounter, right? And we use the tools like compassion, respect, and love that we really do build upon family life. Jesus Christ in his ministry, he lived amongst the poor, he encountered the poor, he ministered to the poor. Pope Francis, he's encountering the poor, living and ministering amongst them. And we're called to do the same, as Christians and young Christians at Jesuit High School. I know it can be really hard, but through these rules of love and respect and compassion, we can really build upon the culture of encounter by really being vocal about our faith, being able to spread it. And I think one of the questions that arises from that is how do we spread that? And it's through faith, right? Faith is not like some type of feeling. I remember talking to Mr. Miller about it in the church of the Jesuit, and he's talking to me about how faith is not some feeling, right? A lot of people who fall away from the church, they believe that faith is some type of feeling, but it's really this consistent, almost entity sort of. And we get that through, the constant participation in sacraments like Mass and confession. So I encourage everyone here, if we really want to be vocal about our faith and really take it seriously, we have to have a strong faith, because this world, it's a really hard world to live in, and we have to have this faith. So go to daily Mass, confession, being able to discuss our faith really will, build a bond between us and God.
Jett, in terms of your faith, what did you take away from this pilgrimage to Philly? And how do you think it helped you grow spiritually?
Well, before I answer this question, I feel the need to preface it with my mindset going into this pilgrimage. I kept having these thoughts. Why was I chosen to go on this pilgrimage? Why me? Why was I picked? And the devil kept coming into my mind and saying, "You're not worthy for this. You're too sinful. You're not faithful enough." And so I kept praying every night, and I'm like, God, why am I on this? Why am I hearing these things? And so coming into this pilgrimage, I'm praying every day, and I'm asking the Lord. But it wasn't until the final night there, we went to the Church of Jesuit at St. Joe's Prep, and we had a final night of prayer before we left. And so I went to a side altar, and I said, okay, I'm going to humble myself before God, and I'm going to ask Him again, why am I here? And so I lied down in front of this side altar. I'm lying on my stomach, and I'm just praying and asking God. I started to lose track of time, and I'm just praying. And then eventually I got this visual, and it was a visual of me doing this push-up. And there's all these people on my back, and God is telling me, He's like, you need to lift up these people. That you need to push as hard as you can. And I'm pushing as hard as I can, but I'm thinking, like, God, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I'm hurting, it's hurting me, and I'm sweating. And I keep trying to God encourage me. And eventually I do it. And I stand up, and I push them all up, and I lift them all up. And then I turn to God, and my muscles are hurting, and they're all torn, and my eyes are bloodshot, and I'm sweaty, and I'm hurt. And I say, God, what now? And he doesn't say a word, he healed me. And I felt like what God was saying to me is, we're not called to be perfect. We're called to have pain, and we're called to suffer at times. And he does call us to unite that suffering with God. And I feel that it's only through that suffering and that pain that we can truly be empathetic of others and to really be compassionate and understand the pain that others are going through.
Very good, excellent. Brett, what was the most memorable experience for you on this trip?
To pin it, to one experience is tough, but the one that keeps standing out in my mind was Friday night, all 350, maybe more pilgrims, we all gathered in this church of Jesuit. And it's this beautiful church. It was a parish church, so now the school has this beautiful, gigantic church. It was built in the early 19th century, and it has a big high altar, beautiful paintings, and like Jett mentioned, a bunch of side altars. So you can really imagine the scope of this. And it was filled, and everybody was preparing for confession. And there were about 20 priests all ready to hear our confessions so we could prepare ourselves for the papal mass on Sunday. And I remember sitting in the pews and waiting so I could go to confession, just looking around and appreciating the scenery. And I saw a bunch of people breaking down into tears. And then I started thinking about that, like, people are crying. This means something. And it was really representative of Pope Francis's theme of mercy. And right there, I could really see this theme of mercy in action. I could feel God's mercy, all around me. And the next thing that struck me was how normal it seemed. We were all, during the day, during this pilgrims, hanging out with the other Jesuit schools, we were playing football, playing frisbee, talking, eating lunch together. Everything was like a normal day. And to be able to go to confession with everybody and to have this, such an important part of our faith seem like such a normal experience, that was really like reaffirming for me. And the thing that I took away from that, from a lot of the pilgrimage, is the faith can be a normal thing. It's not something that we only have to practice on Sunday, that it's weird to want to go to confession. It was something that, I was joyful feeling this mercy from God and seeing everybody else feeling the same joy.
Hey, Jett, 2.5 million people. What was that like to experience just a mass? I mean, you're used to, 700, 800 guys in this chapel, but to be around 2.5 million people, what was that like?
It was a really humbling experience, the whole entire thing. So Pope Francis drove by us probably 30 or 40 minutes to the start of Mass. We were probably from here to the second or third row of the pews. And just see him go by, how it lit up everyone's faces, the energy they had for this one man, our Holy Father, was incredible. So just him driving by was a great experience. Then came the Mass. And during the Mass, mostly everyone knew all the responses that we do here. They knew the Sanctus. They knew, and they kneeled down on hard concrete just for the Holy Father and the Mass. And it really showed how deeply rooted our faith is in the world and how universal it is. And they had so much joy, and that's what I really wanted to bring back to Jesuit, just the joy you can get in spreading your faith, and how open we were during that trip to the graces God gave us that we received, that I hope to bring back to Jesuit. It was just a really humbling and truly amazing experience.
And Michael, if you could carry one specific message from Pope Francis from this trip, what would it be?
Well, one thing that Pope Francis said that stuck with me throughout the whole pilgrimage was, love can overcome any difficulty, which hatred nor division cannot. And I realized that going to Philly was it's the place where the whole church has gathered, especially youth, where we're all celebrating one common faith, one common belief. And I believe that Pope Francis was trying to instill a sense of hope in all of us. It was evident in his visit to the prisoners when he celebrated Mass with them, and also in his speech about religious freedom and also immigration. I think that Pope Francis was trying to help us realize that God is greater than we think. He's more than just a figure that we worship in chapel. He's above, he's beyond, he transcends our whole life. And this pilgrimage has really opened my eyes and helped me awaken my faith. Because first, going to the pilgrimage, seeing all the people, first celebrating Mass with 2.5 million people, that's one thing. And also to see the Pope in front of us, that's another thing. But I think the pilgrimage has opened my eyes because it made me realize that my faith is more than something that I just practice on one day of the week. And one thing that I experienced during this pilgrimage was that hope that Pope Francis talked about. At the Festival of Families, he mentioned, there's one time when he mentioned, he said that he was once asked, what did God do before he created the world? He paused for a second and said, before God created the world, he loved. That made me realize that God is a merciful God, and God is more than we think. And he's willing to love us, whether we're a sinner or a saint, to take us as we are. And I want to bring that to here to Jesuit. I want my fellow brothers to realize that God is with all of you, no matter what you do or who you are. He's willing to take you along the journey. He's willing to go through the ups and downs in your life. And it's just a matter of opening your eyes and seeing how much God loves you.
Throw a little jump ball up here since we got through all 6 of you with one each, so whoever wants to take this one. When the Pope drove by your group, what was the feeling that kind of overcame you at that moment? You can describe the emotions of that moment.
So we were overjoyed just seeing the Holy Father right in front of us and so close. Like, I think it was JJ who said, he was like within 3 pews of us. And yeah, it was real close. And so everyone's yelling, Viva el Papa, and doing the screaming, and there's people crying all around us. And we just thought, like, we're truly blessed to have this experience and to be so close to someone so holy. And it was a great instance to see something like that and to really grow from it.
Yeah, if I could add one thing. The entire procession was on the Ben Franklin Parkway. It's like a mile or 2 long, and we thought we could hear him come in every once in a while, like cheers to the crowd. They're just anticipating his arrival. But when the Pope came out, you knew from a mile away, whatever, how far or where away, you know, just the cheers, how everyone went crazy. All us, we were singing Ad Maior de Gloria, which means the greater glory of God, with Jesuit New Orleans and other schools. We were standing next to them. And it was just an amazing experience. It showed again how universal the joy is in our faith and how we want to bring it back to Jesuit.
Sean, Pope Francis frequently talks about living out the faith in our daily lives and with our family. What are ways young men and women can live out their faith every day?
Well, first, I think, like you said, it's just loving your family, like bringing the faith to the family. That's one of the biggest ways to just live out the faith is like embracing the unity that we have throughout our family, and like every single person in the family plays an important role. So I'd say the number one thing in our faith needs to be going to Mass, or like even for non-Catholics, just like sharing their feelings, their faith, and their experiences with their family.
Alex, one challenge or message you can give the student body about what you learned from this pilgrimage?
Yeah, so throughout the whole week, like we said earlier, Pope Francis is truly encouraging the message of mercy. And I think it's important for us to realize that our God is not some God that's distant, right? He doesn't leave us on this earth to go about our lives. He's constantly with us, whether we realize it or not. And he's always willing to forgive us. He's going to be forever merciful, forever loving. So I think to really strengthen our faith, right, we want to take it seriously, and to really become happier, we have to just recognize that God loves us. You know, He can help us overcome anything really, and it's through the sacraments, like I said earlier, you know, Mass, confession, you know, the Eucharist, just all those things combined will help us really grow stronger in our faith.
Brett, you spent a lot of time with the students of 43 other Jesuit high schools. What was one thing you kind of noticed about those Jesuit students that you maybe all have in common?
I don't know if there's, one specific similarity. One thing I noticed was there's, this common Jesuit education. There was a level of automatic familiarity. We're all going to the same retreats. That was something that was kind of surprising to hear. Like, you don't really think about it too often, but we're going through the same retreats. We all have, regular Mass in school, similar clubs, things like that. We all go to similar events. Like a lot of guys have gone on World Youth Day, March for Life, various pilgrimages that we go on as a student body. So it was really easy to just, pick up a conversation and connect right away because of this common foundation.
Michael, this pilgrimage, how has it affected you and your family?
Okay. First, it brought us together because Pope John Paul II said, "A family that prays together stays together." And I believe this pilgrimage has kind of served that purpose. It has reinforced the idea that a family that loves together, that prays together, allows one to become closer to one another. And that's one thing. And also, another is that through prayer, we're not only connecting with each other, but also beyond our family as well. So we're connecting with our whole Catholic family. And through uniting with ourselves, we're becoming a bigger family than we are, and worshiping God greater than who we are.
Obviously, this was very, most of this trip I would think was pretty serious and everyone's kind of focused in on it, but JJ, there had to be some comic relief at some point. What was maybe the funniest thing that happened during this whole trip?
The funniest thing that happened, every morning we'd wake up around 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and I guess the school decided it'd be a good idea to clear the PA system as loud as they could. And Philadelphia is synonymous with Rocky, that's where it was filmed. So they played Eye of the Tiger, a lot of their songs on the Rocky soundtrack, as loud as they could, 5:30 in the morning. We had to go to bed at 1 o'clock too, that's when we fell asleep, so we got around 4 hours of sleep every night. But when we woke up, we were with 2 other schools in our room, Jesuit Dallas and Gonzaga Prep from DC. And even though it was early, you could sense that brotherhood, that, like Brett said, that familiarity with kids you don't even know. But we all got together, we went to Mass that day, or whatever the events were. But you could just sense that that was true brotherhood there, in the early morning and late nights, whatever it was. So that really brought us all together. And it come.
All right, Jett, the World Meeting of Family Festival, Pope Francis spoke about the importance of grandparents as guiding the family and children as a strength in the family. Who in your life do you look up to as a guide and why?
Well, I certainly have all the priests here that I've looked up to, but my faith really started getting truly developed my freshman year. I came here and I had all my sacraments, but I didn't really know too much about my faith. And the Father Huff was my freshman year theology teacher, and he really taught me like all the basics, like everything I needed to know. And then as sophomore year came around, I became friends with Mr. Greenfield, who was the campus minister here last year. And that's when I really started getting into my faith. I became an altar server, and I talked to Mr. Greenfield and said, I want to join your ministry. I want to get into this. This is something like I want to learn about, and I want to start helping others with it. And so that really helped me. Once I joined Peer Ministry, went on that retreat, and that was it. That was when I knew, like, I have to live for God from now on. Like, there is no going back. This happiness cannot be replaced with anything else. And since then, I've maintained a relationship with God every day, and I don't see any other option.
Is there anything you six that feel that we maybe didn't touch on that you'd like to get across to your classmates?
Just, for closing remarks,
obviously we want to thank Father Hermes and Mr. Miller for this incredible opportunity, but also to thank, you, the student body and the faculty members. Thank you for your prayers, your support. Know that we were praying for you, and we appreciate that you did the same for us while we were on this trip. It was truly a humbling experience, truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and we're all thankful to be able to share it with you.